The forest is quiet. Dead leaves drop from the canopy. Wilted flowers sag, losing petals freely to the breeze. As the wind jostles the trees, a great bough creaks. A sound, like the crack of a whip, heralds its destruction. The thing cracks, falling away from the tree. There are vines and creepers that hold on, their strength lasting seconds before the whole lot, tree limb and all, plummet to the ground. Yet there are no animal cries of panic, no birds shrieking in terror. They don't take to the skies. Silence reigns. Like the wind, the howl of the undead comes from afar, their screams wild and ragged. Next comes the rhythmic beat of running feet. The undergrowth resonates with it. The calls sound playful and terrible all at once, akin to a pack of hyena. Bushes part, and an undead pulls forth the carcass of a large monkey. It stands on 2 legs and wears a blue uniform, blood smeared over its face and neck. Other creatures trot about him, gambling like spring lambs, playing like unruly puppies. Another large undead follows, a bird in its mouth, still squawking and fluttering. This crowd of beasts wander through the forest until they come to a clearing. There are undead everywhere. They walk to and fro, leaving their offerings of flesh, adding more meat to the column of death. The large hunter silences his prey, the agitations summarily stopped by biting down on its skull. The bones crack, and the body is tossed onto the heap. The other undead, the one dressed in the blue uniform, who was formerly known as Muso, heaves the ape carcass high up the pile. He stumbles as loose limbs move underfoot. Blood washes over his toes. Near the top of the pile, the ape is dropped at his feet. Then he rests. The undead is mildly surprised when a roar is bellowed out from above. Somewhere in the canopy, he jumps over a pack of slaughtered pigs to gain a better view. Looking up, he spies the witch woman. Her mouth hangs open, teeth showing. In one hand she holds the hoof and lower leg of some poor beast. In the other hand, a miscellaneous piece of offal. Her call is greeted by the undead. A great war cry sounds around her as they mimic the woman. Even Muso calls. Then the witch returns to her task, face crashing down into the flank of a gazelle. A gush of blood sprays over her already crimson face. Jagged, broken teeth tear skin and snap tendons. Muso turns to leave when she comes up for air, still chewing on a length of intestine, jaws working furiously. She swallows, then draws breath, making for the food again. Before she flinches, her gaze falls on Muso. He spins around quickly, feeling its heat on him. Their eyes meet. The redness therein becomes fluorescent. Witch woman jumps down from her perch to Muso's side. She circles him slowly. The former security guard falls onto his back, bearing his stomach to her. Legs and arms stick in the air, his submissive stance like a cowering dog. She inhales, then the witch roars again, followed by a few shorter howls. All the pack echo her once more. Muso sits up, head facing her, his eyes cast down. Her thin, blood-soaked hand reaches out and strokes his head. The witch runs her fingers through his hair. Then she grabs his head hard and lifts him up to her level. The fully grown man hangs from the grip of a skinny old woman, perverting all logic and reason. Their eyes meet again. This time they burn with red fire. Bright circles of it dance over their irises. Muso shakes. His body twitches and spasms. The screams come forth. He wails. He cries in anguish, but the eyes keep burning into him. His arms rise up to try and release her grip. Hands fiddle at the knot of fingers holding his skull. All around, in every area about the meat pile, the pack bark and howl. The huge pile of carcasses is soon surrounded. They stare up at the couple, who struggle at the summit. A red haze blooms around them, like heat waves on scorched asphalt. Muso's undead body jumps and contorts, his agonized cries more like soft bleating now. The witch's eyes burrow into him, his shoulders and head try to turn away, but his eyes cannot break from her gaze. Fire flickers in the darkness there, encircling the pitched black of the pupil. Then she blinks. The red flame in her eye falters. She eases her grip on Muso's skull. He falls, body tumbling down the pile, finally coming to rest amongst the pieces of bone and viscera at its base. The witch seems dazed, her eyes languid, unfocused, her arms still held out, gripping at a head that was no longer there. Body stands rigid. The haze around her, now a pinkish hue, diminishes quickly. Only her torn, bloody lips move. Silent words creep out of them. At the base of the pile, Muso gathers himself from the ground. His mouth moves too. He gazes up. Like all the undead, they peer up at the woman. She turns, slowly, to face the former guard, mouth still carving out silent sentences. They face each other, eyes locked into an electrifying stare, lips moving in unison. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. The words reverberate through the crowd of the undead. They still stare at their leader, the witch, but now their eyes glow. Muso's light up too. He and the woman stare at one another. Both speak the words in a droning monotone. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. Now the undead move. They bow. Some kneel. Some cannot do either. The ones missing vital limbs fall. Others squat on their remaining legs. These beasts are the dregs of the pack. Yet the fervour takes them, the urge to kowtow. Something, a driving force, coerces them, overpowers them, forces them down into the dirt. The witch raises her arms up to the sky. Fingers claw at the distant clouds. Her long flowing hair begins to float as if the wind were playing with it. Small pieces of bone and lumps of flesh suddenly rise from the pile. They orbit the woman. Her flaming eyes rise to the heavens. Blood appears around them. 2 lines of it stream down her face. From far above, a sound can be heard, like a hunting horn, the volume of which grows slowly. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. Ata okolo inana. The tempo increases. The witch's recital faster now. Muso copies her. The pack spits out her words, only they whine, they whimper. The noise from beyond the clouds affecting them somehow. Some roll on the floor. They try to cover their ears. Ruined fingers claw at the sides of their head. Then the ground moves. solid earth slides sideways. Muso, being one of the only standing undead, falls flat on his chest. He strikes the floor, landing on other undead. This breaks his link with the witch, his gaze focused on the anguished beasts around him. Without warning, he starts to wail. Like the other creatures, he rolls and contorts in the bloody soil. Above, the sound of horns grows louder. Its tone makes the earth tremble. Trees sway with violent disregard. The bodies of slaughtered beasts tumble from the pile. They crash into the undead below, but the great mound of flesh holds true, and atop it, the witch woman yells out, "Ata okolo inana! Ata okolo inana! Ata okolo inana!" A scream of seismic conflict jumps from the earth. The ground moves again, throwing the undead across the spoiled terrain. Up in the sky, a spiral of cloud looms, expanding, twisting into a vast tunnel in the atmosphere. Forest darkens. The ground vibrates. Each undead screams in pain. Behind this scene, the valley walls rise, growing higher, blocking out the evening sun, bringing more darkness. The witch's recital booms out over the sound of the earthquake. From the cloud-ridden sky falls a new rain. Tiny specks of liquid land on her face, each one a deep red. Wind comes from nowhere, pulling at her rags. Rain lashes down. The column of dead animals turns from the colour of animal hide to a rich crimson. The undead that cower and thrash soon become covered in the liquid. Puddles appear around them, the dirt becoming a reddish mud. Still the earth shakes. The discoloured trees rock, losing their grip on the soil and toppling over. A flash, bright as the noonday sun, fills the sky. Then a streak of lightning strikes across the canopy. Trees and undead vaporize instantly. The heat can be felt from quite a distance. Fire rages at the epicenter of the strike. Another bolt descends from high above. The lightning leaps from space and crashes into the forest. Behind these flashes, above the spiraling clouds, the sky becomes black. A silhouette looms over the valley, its form slowly taking shape. The witch's incessant chanting is finally drowned out by the cataclysm around her. Bloody rain runs across her bare flesh. A ripple of lightning streaks across the sky. Her eyes flash with it, face wet with plasma. Those eyes never close. They are red too, rain washing over them. The witch's gaze doesn't falter. No survival reflex drives her to blink the sordid stuff away. Upwards she glares, into the raging storm. Now that mere black speck of a silhouette has grown greatly, its form becoming clear. The thing is falling. Something is falling from high above, like a black star, pulling the light into its depths. A massive shape with fiery extremities. Those below cannot see its might, its candescence, the clouds and canopy blocking their vision. Not that the undead are looking. All but the witch woman writhe with torturous agony. They churn up the crimson soil with their ruined hands and feet, like cows or pigs, and with no way or will to cleanse themselves, they too become completely red, caked in the mud. Suddenly the rain becomes hot. Its immediate effect is slight, unnoticeable. The undead still whine with pain, only their actions change. They try to wipe it from their bodies. They roll in the colder puddles. The temperature increases rapidly until it ceases altogether. A light flashes. Lightning jumps to the earth again, the effect not as terrific as the last. The chaos and screams of agony subside, the undead no longer affected. Their weary carcasses remain slumped in the mud, panting and convulsing intermittently. Ata okolo inana, ata okolo inana, ata okolo inana. Only the woman has the will to make a sound. Silence fills the forest, pierced slightly by the patter of water droplets. The smell of summer rain merges with the odour of burning wood and skin. Muso pants, his chest bulging with air. The fetal position is working for him. One side of his body lies submerged in the mud. The former guard rolls onto his back. Eyes come into focus slowly. The great black object is just above him. The thing tumbles across the horizon. Its trail of debris glows a deep orange. Now a shape can be seen, the form of some grossly disproportioned human. Then the view is lost as the falling object strikes the canopy. The mass flips and rolls over in the trees, gouging a huge rut through the forest. The fallen comes to rest. A plume of heavy dust and stone joins the huge black clouds above. At this, the woman ceases her chanting. Eyes flutter, clearing the blood from her sight. Then she is on all fours, down on hand and foot, charging from her place atop the corpses. They roll and burst under her footsteps, feet crashing through their hides. The undead watch, still drowsy and wary after the arduous torture. As the woman approaches, they show caution in their body language, making desperate attempts to move out of her path. She leaps into the forest. The undead follow, driven on by their instincts, their impulses. Some sniff the air, some lick their wounds, but all eventually join the trail to the fallen man. Ezra stares into the forest, vision failing quickly as the light leaves the day. He jumps down from an upended tree, hopping over its limbs, then jogging into the jungle. Close by, Malika wanders. No direction, no intent in her movement. She moves merely to stop herself falling to the ground. Then Ezra appears at her shoulder. "Come on! Malika, follow me! Follow!" She glances at him, his arms raised, trying to shepherd her along. The girl's pace doesn't change. Ezra lets her take half a dozen strides before he notices. The man tries to lead her by the arm. She pulls away. Ezra scowls, eyes searching her as she hobbles forward. Sweat runs down his forehead, over the ridges formed by his frown. Filth covers both of them. From the knee down they are thick with mud. A line of blood trickles down from Ezra's left knee. He shouts, "Malika, please! You know, please!" She shuffles on, eyes almost closed, legs shifting slowly. The man walks away, making large strides as a sign of his irritation. Past her and into the darkness, she ambles on relentlessly, eyes not lifting to see her companion leave. His footsteps diminish until they can no longer be heard. She stops, hands rise to her chest. The girl stands there in the gloom, embracing herself. Ezra storms through the forest. A large palm leaf tears as he punches it out of the way. He leaps over a fallen tree into a bush of the thorny variety. A squeak of pain breaks the forest's silence. Ezra pulls thorns from his leg as he walks on, swearing under his breath. His short legs carry him through the forest quickly. Huge trees rise up around him like giant pillars. A few of them lean at unfeasible angles. Ezra slaloms through them, mumbling and cursing as he goes, the words only heard by his own 2 ears. A tired leg kicks out at a large flower, throwing its wilted petals into the air in a dirty orange plume. He chuckles and increases his pace, looking over his shoulder at the mess. In his hurry, Ezra walks on with little regard for his surroundings. The direction he chose is in front of him, and that's all that matters. A little to his left a tree lies in the soil. Under its tremendous girth a fence post hides from sight, engulfed in ferocious weeds. It was once attached to a brand new fence, protected by bright green lacquer. Now it's just another human structure lost to the forest. The fence runs off in a line, most of it now camouflaged by the forest's litter. Vines looping through the chain links, but one part draws the eye. A faded yellow sign with black chevrons framing it. Danger, Achtung, peligroso. Many words in many languages mark the sign. In its center, a skull leers out at the foliage. A hazardous material emblem hangs behind it. Ezra's march soon brings him to a mud track. It feels good under his feet, reassuring in a way. He smiles at the crude lane. The man jogs along it, panting softly. After a few strides he stops. A group of prefab buildings stand around a tall metal tower. It's a mine shaft. Ezra recognizes it, even in the twilight. The huge winch, the industrial lift, signs of humanity. The relief is short-lived. A pout punctuates the man's face. Some more nearly inaudible words fall from his lips. Why bother? Dumb bitch. Ezra turns. He looks down the lane, back along his path. Then he sighs. Tired legs move again. Darkness. Deep, brooding blackness. In a world with no light, only sound can illuminate. The drip of slow running water, a deep resonating echo, and a coughing, the splutter of an old man. These are the only sounds. The blanket of darkness becomes tinged with flickering luminescence. The scene, lost in the gloom, now becomes clear. Shadows move across the place, across the walls of stone that are now visible. They appear, glazed with yellowish light, the moisture reflecting the glow. As more light breaches the darkness, words can be heard. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. The old man moves slowly, his right arm held aloft, a torch in hand, the stick wrapped with material, the left arm of his shirt having been torn away. The skin there is dappled with bruising. Brown, purple, and green lumps swell out of his flesh. The words of the Lord's Prayer resonate from him, echoing off the walls of the tunnel, only interrupted by the man's coughing. He wipes his brow with his remaining sleeve, then the recital starts again. Steps hasten as he reaches a slight incline in the cave. The ceiling rises up and disappears into the dark. The walls reach off in different directions. A patch of darkness lies before him. The fire does nothing to reveal its nature. He raises the torch up high to illuminate his path. The prayer trails off. His mouth keeps moving, but only the tapping of water on stone is heard. The torch's chaotic glow highlights the features of a carved face, its visage hanging in the air over a wide cavern. The old man recoils at its sight. It fills the empty, cavernous void. All else was darkness. The head itself perched on top of a tall plinth. Its mouth hangs open, eyes stare up into the heavens. The vast carving sits above a set of steps. They descend down into the earth's bowels. The old man leans over the edge of the ravine. He strains to see where the stairs lead. The fire illuminates nothing. Old man looks up at the giant bust again. The words of his God are spoken. He turns away from the statue and walks along the nearest wall to the other end of the cave. The torch flares suddenly. The thing is thrown down. Its glow flickers, then dies. Old man shuffles through the darkness, searching for the torch, his anguished breathing baffled in this enclosed space. He relaxes slightly when his hands feel the stick. They tremble as he tries to light the thing. The fabric catches fire, starting to burn slowly. The room fills with the smell of paraffin. He blinks as the cavern becomes visible again. In front of his eyes a picture looms. Deep reds and oranges streak across the walls. Black lines run in between them. The torch is blown on. The flame grows. More of the wall is revealed. High above him, a large blue orb is painted onto the rock face. It resembles Earth. Continents divided by water with ice at the extremities. Yet the land masses are strange, not of this world. All around it, colourful lines reach out. He follows them along the wall to another huge orb. This one isn't blue, nor does it have continents. The picture portrays a brown planet, crossed with red lines, like veins over flesh, running from the north into the southern hemisphere. All around the edge are tiny figures, small creatures, animals. The old man moves closer, surprised to see that the figures have human characteristics. The faces contorted, eyes painted red. They walk the expanse of the planet, the strange primeval world. The lines emanating from this one are much darker, more ochres and oranges. The man's torch moves again, unveiling the source of these lines. They weave a winding trail straight into the mouth of a beast, a giant creature resting in a flaming ball, like a sun but crimson-coloured and hollow. The figure is larger than the planets, and it's masculine. The upper body, huge muscular forearms and head, rear up like a cobra. The lower half splits into many sections. They twist and writhe around the scaled body, like red snakes in a wicker basket. The old man feels his gaze being drawn to the thing's face. The eyes are wild and red, the mouth wide, showing teeth capped with blood. The lines that run along the wall converge over his head. They merge and flow down the beast's throat, like it's feeding on them. By now, the old man has ceased his praying and instead bites at his lower lip. The cave walls creep up into the abyss, dwarfing the man's body. The vast paintings loom over him. Even his robust build seems slight under these ancient frescoes. He follows the painting along the wall until he reaches the deep darkness. Thank the Lord. The cave wall opens up. Another tunnel leads off of the main shaft, about 3 meters high, but slim. It runs down deep into the earth. The painted lines emerge from the blackness therein. Old man attempts to view the depths of this tunnel. He pushes his body into the gap, left arm first, then with a certain amount of effort his chest, then finally his right arm, holding the torch in hand. Its flame, the last lingering light, reveals the wall's final picture. As the darkness reclaims the cavern, another blue orb can be seen. Like the huge burning orb containing the red creature, the planet contains a figure, a half-human form, with hands crossed over its chest, closed eyes, and a golden symbol over its head. Valkyrie base, do you receive? I say again, Valkyrie base, do you receive? The captain holds the mic loosely in his hand. His remaining men rest under the roots of a fallen tree. Their wounds are still being patched. Roger, Valkyrie base receiving. Please authenticate. The captain hesitates. He looks over at his men. They are basically useless as a fighting force. There are no real options. Authentication reads Papa Lima Alpha, November, Echo Tango 3. Over. Roger, we have you. Report needed from Captain Ike. The disembodied voice chirps from the radio. Message. Mission is a no-go. Exfil is needed. Priority 1. Heavy losses. I say again, heavy losses. An earthquake took down the squad. The ground just ruptured under our feet. I've never seen anything like it. 7 men MIA, 2 men KIA. Valkyrie base, how long will that exfil take? We have a rescue team refueling now. Your RV point will be Site B. Recommend. Valkyrie base, we cannot reach Site B. I have wounded and we cannot move at this time. The captain leans his head against the radio. The thing continues to emit dead air. From over his shoulder, a short burst of cursing breaks the radio's silence. He turns to see one of his men being stitched. No anesthetic remains, no painkillers have survived the earthquake. The sight of one of his men in needless pain brings his blood to the boil. Valkyrie base, do you receive? Valkyrie base! Captain Ike, we have new orders. Execute immediately. Captain stares at the radio, stunned by the words it produces. He waits to hear the new orders, as any good soldier would, brow furrowing with stress. What is it, Valkyrie? Captain, tag to point S1. Recovery of system CPU is a priority. Exfil will be reallocated once you reach the locale. Do you need me to repeat? The radio crackles. I need you to tell me what the fuck you're talking about. Get us out of here. I'm sorry, sir. It's not me. It's an executive order. They just want the server's CPU. It's got all the company's system data on it. We need it, apparently. I can't reallocate the exfil, sir. From what I can tell, it's about a 4-hour trek. Valkyrie base, I don't know what a CPU looks like. My man is bleeding out here. We have no offensive capabilities. I request again for priority exfil. If I could, I would, sir. Ike out. Sorry, Captain. The radio crackles and whines. Interference turns the signal into a pulsing rhythmic roar. The captain checks the equipment. Switches are flicked, dials tapped on, but nothing helps the situation. In an outburst of anger, he lashes out and punches the radio machine. Problem? Captain rolls his eyes. He pats at his pockets, checking for a packet of smokes. Nothing. Fuck, he mutters. Here you go. A subordinate appears. A hand passes him a lit cigarette. He glances up at his comrade. Thanks, Marcello. Can you get him ready? We're moving off. RV is position S1. ETA about 4 hours, that way. His soldier knows not to ask questions. They are highly trained fighting men. The subordinate spits as a sign of his disdain. He flicks his own cigarette into the undergrowth and walks away in silence. The captain looks from the man back to the radio. His earlier attack had not damaged the device. He inhales smoke, letting it fill the empty parts inside.